Welcome to the Kickstart My Franchise podcast. I'm your host, Tim Michaels. Today I'm joined by Mike Bagley. He is the VP of Franchise Development for Prestige Franchise Partners. He's currently working with an awesome brand called Body Bar Pilates. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Tim, thank you so much. We're excited to be here talking shop about Body Bar. It's a great brand and really proud to be working with them and their team. They've got a lot of amazing things happening.
So before we jump into Body Bar, I do want to just get, the 2-minute elevator pitch for our audience on who you are, what's your background, have you owned a franchise?
Yeah, right on. Awesome. How did I trip and fall into franchising, right? That's a question I always like to ask everybody as well. And I was 35, golden handcuffs. That was back in 2016. And that layoff in April happened. I'd always been thinking about getting into business ownership. And at that time, we finally said, hey, we got the pain points. My wife and I went and purchased an in-home care franchise. And we operated that for a number of years. We had about 70 caregivers. It was a great little business. It was 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And we had an opportunity to sell it, and we did. And that was a great experience. And that's when I actually found franchise development. And that was back in 2018 timeframe. And I've been in this chair doing franchise development for over a decade now. I've worked, for brands themselves as a W-2 employee. I've worked for some of the largest FSOs in the nation. And then now currently joining with Samantha and Brittany and creating our own firm, Prestige Franchise Partners. It's been a fun and wild ride. And even most recently, I got to represent brands like the Brothers That Just Do Gutters and Game Day Men's Health. And my wife and I were drinking the Kool-Aid on game day for sure. We bought 3 territories of that one. My wife oversees that as an executive owner and is running that business remotely. We've been owner operators, and today we're executive owners. So we talk the talk and walk the walk. Love franchising. Been there, done that, got that t-shirt, and I can't wait for my next one.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always love people who actually, put their money where their mouth is and actually do a franchise. So good for you. You've done 2, so you're one ahead of me.
Well, congrats for yourself as well. It's exciting times for you.
Yeah, appreciate it. So let's get to Body Bar. What exactly is it? Just give us the 2-minute elevator pitch.
Yeah, right on. So Body Bar Pilates is a Pilates studio, right? Pilates has been around for 100 plus years. When Joseph Pilates created it for injured World War I veterans that were coming home, and so it's been around for a long time. And it wasn't until Club Pilates came along a number of years ago, and they totally exploded on the scene and made the masses aware of Pilates. And Body Bar is the second to market, the second largest in the nation today. And we've got what we call a boutique twist on classical Pilates, and people are absolutely loving it because of the addictive nature.
And so, the thing that everyone always says to me, and I think a lot of times around just fitness in general, is, okay, this is a faddish category. It's like high risk.
Love it.
Help me figure out why this isn't the case.
Yeah, not that there couldn't or isn't fads in any industry, for example, but that is definitely a common misconception. I would say with Pilates, again, the history of Pilates, how long it's been around. Once you start Pilates, you have an 80% chance of sticking with it for the rest of your life. That's a very sticky customer. So what kind of fad has an 80% chance of someone sticking around for the rest of their life? What's even more interesting about that is today's dynamic in the world that we operate in. I was born in 1980, so in the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, if you were to talk to people about working out, it was always about like this, like I got to lose weight and I got to look better. No one ever talked about here and here. But in today's world, everyone's talking about mental health and the wellness that comes from being physically active. In fact, 81% of people say, I am looking for mind-body connection. And the beautiful thing about Pilates is it's a mind-body workout. And so that is something that we talk about. That is part of what we do and who we are within Pilates. And so traditional gyms are just not hitting the mark for the majority of Americans out there because it's not that mind-body workout. And that's what they're all looking for. So it comes together really nice from that standpoint. The next thing is the tailwinds in this industry are enormous. Right now, I think it's 82% of Americans are saying that daily fitness is a top priority, and 75% of them are actually putting their money where their mouth is, meaning they're spending more money on these types of memberships today than they ever were before. And so as it stands right now, the Pilates and yoga industry is about $160 billion space. Over the next decade, those tailwinds are pushing it to $421 billion. Again, with numbers like that, how can you talk about a fad?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So very basic question, but I've heard about Pilates my whole life, never done a Pilates class. Can you just explain like what actually happens at one of these and what's different, if anything, about Body Bar versus, some of the competitors out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been on a reformer and done some Pilates classes myself. In fact, anyone that comes through our mutual evaluation process and ends up at the end or discovery day or confirmation day, we do some Pilates workouts there as well. So everyone will get to learn about it. But Pilates is going to be an opportunity to stand on. If you can look at the picture behind my head there, these are called reformers, these machines. And these machines have rollers and springs on them. And there's also a stationary place that you would stand on that's firm. And it allows you to move and isolate your muscles, isolate those different pieces of you, stretch those different pieces of you, and give you a very strong, complete workout going from the core out. And so it's a very strengthening type process. A lot of people come to Pilates for injury recovery. I have guys that say, I am a golfer and I do Pilates just so I can golf. I have people coming to me saying, hey, I was scheduled to do surgery, and because of the recommendation for strength training within Pilates, I was able to, heal that piece of my back that we were going to have surgery on. And so it's just an overall really strong strengthening and lengthening type opportunity. And then in today's world, women are actually wanting to get a little bit of muscle and bulk on them. And so if they're coming to a Pilates class, at Body Bar, we have a lot of options for you. So if you want to get long and lean, you can. If you want to get a little bit of size to and shape and adjust your body form, you can do that as well by adding different weights and holds and things of that nature. But it's going to be a complete workout for your body each time you go in.
And from an end customer standpoint, is this, a monthly membership or what does it look like? Do I sign up for classes on a weekly basis? Is it daily?
Yeah, so Bodybar is really nice about providing several options for customers to choose from. So one of those options might be a membership where it's unlimited and you come as many times as you want every day or whatever it is. And then they might have some more limited type monthly memberships. And that's where a lot of folks end up at. But then you might have someone that's still maybe that traditional gym guy. I still go to the gym 3 to 5 days a week, but I incorporate yoga and Pilates into my workouts. Now, I might not go get 3 memberships, but I'll buy day passes, I'll buy a pack of 4 or a pack of 8, or my wife will get those for me and then I go join her in those things. And so depending on how someone's incorporating Pilates into their life, it could be an unlimited membership all the way down to I just buy a day pass once a month or something like that.
Got it. Okay. And I assume this is, heavily skewed towards a female demographic, but are there guys who do Pilates?
Yes, absolutely. There are male athletes and beyond that find themselves on those reformers. So, again, growing up in the 80s and 90s, if you were to ask me, what's the stereotypical Pilates person? I'd be like, that's my grandma, or like, that's my mom. If you were to ask me that today, that stereotype is still there, but it's replaced by what's called a Pilates mama, right? And so those stereotypes exist. But when you walk into a Body Bar studio, you're seeing active agers, you're seeing postpartum mommies, you're seeing, busy business professionals, you're seeing, people that are weekend warriors that are just testing things out. And then you're seeing individuals like me, yes, I'm male, coming in because, hey, in my 40s, my body doesn't work the way that it used to. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed and warming up a little bit before I stand up, So, hey, movement is life, mobility is key and important. And so just depending on where you're at in the age of your life, there's an opportunity there. But we talked about the injury recovery segment briefly a minute ago, where people are coming in because of injury. Who gets injured? It's everybody. And so one of the things that's very important at Body Bars are community and a balanced approach, so that when a knucklehead like me walks in and is working out next to my wife, she's comfortable with me being there and I'm comfortable with being there too, learning and growing together and progressing together in that community.
So first of all, you hurt me a little bit with the comment about 40 because I'm 39, so my body's already declined. So I think I am changing the game. But as far as the competition, I think we've all heard of some of the larger names in this space. How large are you guys, and what differentiates you from some of the other options out there?
Yeah. First off, I love the competition that's out there. I mean, Pilates is fantastic, and the competition has done such a great job of helping it come to the masses, which has allowed us to do a really nice job as the second to market and second mover. And so as we've come to the table since 2012 is when we were founded till today in 2025. We now have roughly 60 opened and operating locations in about 30 states. We have another roughly 100 territories that are in development to be open in the coming months and or years, right? And so we have a really, really strong foothold across the entire country. We've been there, we've done that, we've got that t-shirt, we know what it's like to open these locations. And actually, when your candidates end up coming through our process, they're going to get to look at the item 19, and we have 21 mature locations included in that item 19. And so people are able to see the high, the median, the low, the top third, the bottom third, and the average of all of those 21 locations getting really strong numbers. And then, Tim, just one last thing that I got to throw out there with that. Since 2012 until today, we've had 0 closures and we have no lawsuits. Those are unique themes, 0 closures and no lawsuits. That's not common in a franchise that's been around for a decade. And so this brand is pretty robust in their systems, their support team. They actually have about 30 support staff right now because we have that strong base, and they're really ready just to really launch and start growing.
So are there still good areas available, or is everything good already taken?
Yeah, right. Well, with only 160 sold, that's actually a pretty small amount in comparison to what the market has availability for. The only market we're not taking leads in is Wichita, Kansas. That's it. Literally, I at least have a single or something in every major metro across the country, but there are still hundreds of territories available and ripe and ready for folks to take a look at.
Who knew Wichita, Kansas was such a hotbed for Pilates?
I know it.
So what kind of ownership models are there? Who are you seeing come in as owners?
Yeah. Well, I think if you look at most franchise brands, what would be true is the owner operators are pretty heavy model. A lot of people get tired of being that keyboard warrior. Maybe they want to throw on a ball cap and jump in a truck and go do estimates for their franchise or whatever, or Pilates and do sports and wellness and fitness. But I think when you look at our opportunity here at Body Bar, you're going to see a lot of owner operators for sure, just because that's pretty standard. But every Thursday, I have a live Q&A call with a different franchisee from a different walk of life. And candidates coming through our process are going to hear owner operators, they're going to hear executive owners, they're going to hear husband-wife couples. And we've got sisters that are couples, we've got men that own these, we've got women that own these, and everyone in between. All those walks of life are being validated for sure. So anyone that's wanting to keep that day job and jump in and still run this, that could be an opportunity. Obviously, it's going to be based on their strength and their skill sets, right? Their strength and skill sets and their capability to have some time throughout the day to incorporate an investment like a business. Because as we know, semi-absentee or executive ownership that we're talking about right now is not passive. It is not a passive opportunity or a passive conversation. And because I've been in the space for a decade now, I've been an owner operator and currently an executive owner, it's natural for me to be able to communicate and articulate those things with individuals that come through this process. Or maybe sometimes they have misgivings about what it may look like or not, and I can help guide and correct them along the way.
It's awesome. And what is the typical investment range for somebody who wants to get one of these going?
Yeah, on the low end, our item 7 is roughly $390, and on the high end, it's roughly $790. That is including purchasing all of the equipment. A lot of brands will show that as a lease option. We show it as a purchase option, and it's about $130,000 purchase on that point, and that's what puts it up on the higher end.
Got it. Okay. I like when everybody's transparent with the charges, so you don't get in and you're like, okay, this is a couple extra $100,000 from what I thought it was going to be. So that's great.
I would actually take a second to speak about that. I mean, look, I've been in the space for a long time, and we all want to under-engineer our item 7. We want to attract as many, candidates as you can. But with a brand like us that's been around for as long as we have and not having any closures, we're not looking to take a chance on the low tier. We're looking to engineer the outcome of success. And so we want that stronger candidate come to the table. We want that stronger candidate with capital to come to the table. And so when you look at our, liquid requirements, when you look at our net worth requirements, we're going to be slightly higher than maybe some of the other brands or direct competitors to us. And we're okay with that.
What are the thresholds?
Yeah, 600,000 for net worth and 200 liquid.
Great, reasonable. So you sold me. I think it's a great concept. I went through your whole process, and now I'm about to open. Like, how is the franchise going to actually support me in getting this off the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I just briefly like to mention a couple key players in the leadership team, just so you understand the breadth and strength that they're bringing to the table and maybe the uniqueness of their perspectives. Our co-founders, Matt and Camille McCollum, they're the president and CEO of this brand today and have been basically since 2019. Well, in 2016, they were the first franchisees. They weren't the founders. They bought into the brand, bought a couple, 2 or 3 locations, which they still own and operate today as franchisees. But long story short, they were growing and doing a really nice job with the brand. And by the original founder, Lori, she offered an opportunity for them to join and kind of scale the business to the next level. You see in a previous life, Matt and Camille had a lot of franchise experience. Matt was working on the operations side with the master franchisee, helping locations open and run, plus they had their own locations. So when they bought this next franchise, Bodybar, they were just scaling and growing quicker. And Lori and team could see, hey, they're an asset. Let's bring them in, make them co-founders. We've got the branding, we've got the capital. Let's work together and scale this. And so you've got Matt and Camille who are at the table as a franchisor and also as a franchisee. And so again, a unique perspective and lenses of having a leadership team who is doing all of the same things that they're asking you to do. And then we've got our Chief Operations Officer, Michael. He actually just joined us not too long ago, within last year, from Orange Theory Fitness. Everyone's known of Orange Theory and the growth that they've had and the success that they've done. Michael was with them for a number of years on the operations team, and he was also a former multi-unit franchisee of them. And so from that leadership team, again, the perspective of the franchisor and franchisee side, I think, is a pretty unique thing. And that shows up in things like our item 7. We're not looking to under-engineer things. We're looking to find that right candidate. Also, in our item 19, just as a side note, when you look at that and you go to our bottom line, basically EBITDA, most franchisors say, hey, below that bottom line, you got to deduct what? Debt. You got to deduct taxes. And you also got to factor in that general manager, what we call studio manager. Well, for Bodybar, that's not the case. We actually factor that studio manager or general manager compensation above EBITDA line. So it's already factored in. So if you're an owner operator and you're coming to the table and looking at my bottom line, comparing it to many others in the industry, it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison, because if you're an owner operator, you're going to get your 24% bottom line. Look at the item 19 for that to clarify. Plus, in addition to that general manager or studio manager compensation. So it's a very strong bottom line from that standpoint, especially for an owner operator. But again, if you're going to be an executive owner, the cost of that studio manager is already factored in. So that bottom line stands as it is, which is a unique perspective, I think, in a P&L or in a team in the franchise space.
That is absolutely huge. I mean, I can second that you do not see that called out the vast majority of the time, and then people aren't factoring that in when they're thinking about, okay, I want to keep my day job and run this. So
yes,
again, kudos to you guys for keeping that in there.
And support team with a different perspective. I didn't get into all the templates and the onboarding stuff. We find your location for you, work with you on the LOI, the lease, the design work, the build out. We have an entire training department that manages all of the Pilates training and continuing education, right? Our candidates, our franchisees are climbing Mount Everest, but we've got the ropes and the ladders over the crevasses. We've got the Sherpas and the oxygen tanks, but it's our franchisees' lungs and legs that are burning climbing that mountain. We know when it's time to stop and it's time to go, and here's base camp and this and that. Yes, we have all of those things in place, but the mindset of the franchisees coming through the system is what's really going to be driving them through all of that, right?
And I imagine it takes, a while to get one of these things open and then actually profitable. Can you talk about like the kind of starts you're seeing some of your franchisees have?
Yeah, I don't have, validated information in the item 19 on when we're cash flowing, so I can't answer that question. However, you can get that question answered on our Thursday validation calls directly from the franchisees and hear the good, bad, or ugly from them. I can tell you this though, because we have a pre-sales playbook, our franchisees are getting open and profitable really quickly. So let's just talk about getting open real quick. From the time that you sign your franchise agreement to get your doors open, you're looking at roughly a 10 to 12 month window. We're looking at Class A real estate right now, and there's only 4% availability, meaning 96% of Class A right now is occupied. And so depending on how quickly or long it takes to identify that first location, then boom, it's pretty quick from there. But typically we see 10 to 12 months. Now, 12 to 16 weeks before you even open your doors is when we provide you that playbook, that pre-sale playbook that says do X, Y, and Z. And as our franchisees are following that first year, first location, so this isn't the experienced crew, first year, first location franchisees are opening on day one with an average of 221 pre-sold customers. Wow. Now you can do the math yourself, but whether your pre-sale, which is a discount, is $1.65, $1.85, $1.99, whatever it is for your community, multiplied by roughly 200 individuals, you're having a significant amount of cash volume that's recurring revenue that repeats again month over month over month. So in theory, getting to a cash flow point relatively quickly would be possible. However, it's your franchisees' legs and lungs that are ones implementing that and climbing that mountain for those results. But on the high end, we've had first year franchisees close to 400 pre-sale members. So 200 is just the average. And that's again based on I think it's close to 17, 18 locations that had opened in 24, 23.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's a fantastic start. I know you're a busy guy and you got a meeting coming up here, but is there anything else you want to get across about your concept or that people should know?
You know, I think if I was to highlight a few things of what we talked about today, I think that this brand really does have a unique leadership team because they are franchisees of the brand still. And in Michael's case, he's been a franchisee before in the fitness space, the wellness space, brick and mortar recurring revenue. And so for you jumping into a business, especially if it's your first time and you're new to this, you have a fantastic team that has a ton of experience. I think that's pretty unique. And the way that our item 19 is written out, as you confirmed, that shows that they have a unique perspective from that standpoint. I think our item 7 also echoes that. I think the next thing is that proven pre-sale process that we talked about. If you want to jump into business on day one and you have an opportunity to have an average of over 200 customers, that's fantastic. What else do you want in a business? And then maybe lastly, customers that have an 80% chance of continuing with Pilates. What more do you want in a customer base that's coming to you? They're looking for a mind-body balance. You have a mind-body balance workout, 80% retention of Pilates. It's a wonderful opportunity. I believe recurring revenue could be life-changing opportunity for people. Every franchise model that I have owned has strategically been recurring revenue model. You don't have to go chase again on the first, which is today, everything that already paid last month. Because in the business that I'm in and in Bodybar's business, right, boom, it repeats again today. Now you're just going to find that growth money. And that is a much easier bite to chew and to swallow and keep rocking after. So Bodybar's fantastic. I appreciate you giving me a time to chat about it with you for a few minutes today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.